a press conference featuring our batting coach Ashwell. I do just have a couple of questions from home, so I'll just roll those first before I open up to the floor. First up, Ash, Tristan approached his innings at slower tempo. How do you get a player that is naturally attacking to change his game in this way?
I think, first of all, good evening, everyone. I think it's important for every player to be able to adapt their game depending on the different countries that they are in and the different conditions that they are facing. And then obviously adapt their skill set to what they're facing in the current conditions. Obviously, he came off a disappointing test in the first test match, but I think he showed great character. I think a little bit clearer in his game plan, a bit more clarity, understanding his scoring opportunities or his scoring strokes, and then obviously strong in defence. So credit to him. I think the important thing is that from a South African point of view, with so much time left in the game, I don't think there's run rate is that important. So he's got time on his hands to take his time.
Thanks. Just please do keep your cell phones on silent. Second, how has Tristan been coping with being moved up and down the order in his last few tests? And speaking of game plans, what was his game plan for this match in which he returned to the number 3 spot?
Yeah, as I said, I think there's been obviously we want to be strong, and the players, all our batters want to trust their defence against quality spin attack from Pakistan. But at the same time, it's important to have clarity on what your scoring options will be and when they present themselves. Which ones are your preferred scoring opportunities for rotation of strike plus boundaries, and just having a little bit more clarity with that. I suppose in any country where you play, you need a bit of fortune as well. Sometimes the ball can spin sharply. You're hoping when it spins sharply, it beats the outside edge. But credit to him, he's been pretty solid in defence, and he's been quite positive in terms of his footwork, back and forth using the crease. And when he wanted to hit the ball in the air, was commitment in that for taking the aggressive option. So he's gone pretty well, and I'm sure he'll rest well tonight and now be ready to go again tomorrow.
And then just the first part of that question, just how's he been coping with being moved up and down the order? Just one moment. Please, guys, do keep your cell phones on silent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think he sort of sees it as a great opportunity to be able to go in at number 3 in these conditions. We've always seen him as a player who's got a pretty good, decent game against spin. And so the opportunity to move up the order, I think, is a great opportunity for him, and he's grabbed it with both hands. We've seen the stats in his different batting positions. He's got a pretty good average at number 3. So he kind of likes it in that position. But whether he continues in that position, obviously, in the future, it will be determined by where we play, conditions that we face, etc.
And then lastly, before I open up to the floor, there's a twofold question. Tony has been very successful in the subcontinent. Is there room to adopt an approach that the number 3 changes depending on the conditions? So, for example, Tony in the sub, Vian, and or someone else outside the sub. And then second to that is what makes Tony so strong here in the subcontinent other than the sweep shot?
I think the number 3 position, I think as a batting group, probably would fluctuate in terms of where we are playing, or which countries we are playing. Vian Mulder has been in that position in the recent past and done reasonably well under different conditions. When we come to the subcontinent, we obviously, just like in the bowling department, equally with the batting department, we have to marry people in terms of horses for courses. Tony is a really good player of spin. He sweeps well, reverse sweeps well, uses his feet well. And because he's a good player of spin, we don't necessarily want him to be at number 3. We only have 2 left-handers with Rickleton and the Zorzi in the top order, and then we have Mutasame coming on later on. So ideally, you kind of want to stagger your left-handers in between your right-handers. So at the moment, he's coming in at number 4, which kind of suits us because we have Rickleton at the top, and then at number 4, you have another lefty. Then we have Mutasame coming in later. So we've got the left-handers kind of staggered in the lineup, which helps us with the balance.
I think most of the questions I wanted to ask have been asked, but with the last half hour and the 2 wickets that fell, do you think that colours the day slightly in terms of what you thought might be a very good day for South Africa and now it's more in the balance?
Yeah, the last 2 wickets is not ideal. But a wicket falling or the partnership being broken with about 25 minutes to go, we know that starting your innings under these circumstances, under these conditions, is probably the hardest part of your innings. And then when you only have 25 minutes to bat, you're probably not certain how much attacking to do or how much defending to do. A guy like Brevis would, in his whole first-class career, not have had to bat in those circumstances many times in his career, and then under these types of conditions, it's quite a challenge. So it's not ideal that we lost the 2 wickets, but I'd still say pretty good day for us.
Do you think in terms of the scoring rate and the way South Africa approached the innings today, do you think it'll be more of the same tomorrow, or could South Africa be try and get these runs there?
Well, I don't think with 3 days to go, it's necessary to go a lot quicker. I think the important thing is for every batsman who goes out there to find his natural rhythm of play. I think what we try and emphasize is rhythm of play, finding your tempo without, out there in the middle, and marrying strong defence with good scoring opportunities. I think it's important for all of them to know where their singles are, to understand which kind of boundary options they might be looking at. But as far as time is concerned, I don't think there's any rush with 3 days to go.
The Pakistani spinners have been really accurate today, the 3 of them, as the ball starting to keep low as well. How do you intend to counter that in the morning session without losing wickets in the clumps as we saw in the first test match?
Look, I think when balls keep low or balls explode, as a batsman, a lot of the time there's very little you can do about that. What we're talking about in our game plans, in our strategy, is to make strong positions. Get yourself in a strong position, and should it be a strong reaction from the surface that gets your wicket, there's not a lot you can do about that. Put yourself in a good position to play defensively, but always having a mindset of scoring or attacking. So first prize is to score runs. Second prize is to be in a good, strong defensive position.
Right. Coming to this test match and losing the first test for 93 runs and dropping 4 catches and then still restricting Pakistan to less than 350. What's your thought, Pakistan losing 5 wickets in Twitter, 5 for 17 in the first and 5 for 17 in the second?
So I think the batting conditions in both test matches have, they're not unplayable, but they are challenging. And we've seen on both teams that if you apply yourself well, if you find rhythm in your batting, then you can score. But we've also seen with both teams that when new batsmen come to the crease, it's tough to start. So if you're facing a bowling attack that's on point, meaning they're quite accurate, when new batsmen are coming to the crease, it can be really difficult for the batters because you're not getting a lot of loose balls, you're not getting a lot of opportunities to rotate the strike, and the bowlers are on top of their game. When bowlers are on top of the game at the start of your innings, you can lose a cluster of wickets. But when the batters find rhythm, you can have big partnerships, as we've seen in this game and the previous game.
And the second part is a bowler who captured 11 wickets in the first test match, Matsusami, did bowl.
Yeah, look, I think obviously we had our first choice spinner available. He bowled 42 overs, took 7 wickets. Mutusami, probably by his own admission, would say that he wasn't quite, he didn't start as well as he would have liked. Then we have another 4 bowling options in the team. I thought Marco Jansen and KG Rabada, albeit they didn't pick up a lot of wickets, bowled really well. I think the captain did a pretty good job of rotating his bowlers.
We're doing 2 last questions in the front, and then we'll try.
This is Ashwell Mubarak, Daily Islam. We observed that the behavior of the pitch is before the lunch is different and after. Your bowler, Maharaj, took 7 wickets, becomes the second successful bowler of the South African history. You know, the next day, the third day, will be similar like the first day and Pakistan second day. What is the planning from the bench?
Well, we expect the surface to deteriorate as the pitch did it in Lahore. As the time goes on in the match, we're expecting it to start spinning more and more. So our first innings total obviously becomes very important. Losing the 2 wickets close to the end of play wasn't ideal, but I thought we batted really well. The guys applied themselves really well today. One more big partnership, something close to 100 in terms of a partnership, ideally for this wicket between Stubbs and Verreynne, brings us close to Pakistan's score. And I think the potential is there to possibly get 40, 50 runs ahead. And I think it might not sound a lot, but under these circumstances, it could be a lot, 40, 50 runs. But that's a long way away. I think, as, to your question, as the time goes on, the pitch will deteriorate more. For us, the most important session is the first session tomorrow morning, to negotiate that first before looking too far ahead.
Last question.
How difficult does your job get on a tour like this in terms of preparing your batters psychologically when you know that the pitches are going to be very supportive towards spinners?
I think it's a great opportunity. One for me as a coach, because we play a lot of matches in our country or other countries, England, Australia, New Zealand, that's similar to our conditions. And touring the subcontinent, is a great challenge for us. In this cycle, we have a lot of test matches in the subcontinent. But these players, we have to give them credit because there's a great appetite for learning, problem solving. When we say problem solving, these are not the types of conditions that we face all the time. And I think to be a successful test match player, you want to be able to conquer a variety of different conditions over your career. And I think if you're able to manage that over the course of your career, you can really distinguish yourself as a great test match player. And like I say, I've got to give credit to our guys that on a daily basis, there's a great appetite for learning and for solving problems that are maybe different problems to what we face at home. And so far, it's going okay.
Great, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Ashwell.
Thank you. Thank you.